Today, my wife and I are on a quest to find the historic location of the house of an obscure settler who lived in the foothills of the California Mother Lode. I found evidence for the location of this house from an old map from 1871. So, using this old map information and recent images from Google Earth, we have a plan for what we think will be an interesting adventure. In modern times, access to this area we are going is first by boat and then by a hike up what the map labels a small valley. Well, we're going to start up this little canyon and follow this stream up to where we think Freeman's house was. As I mentioned before, there's an indication on this old map as to where it is. It's right where this stream branches out. There should be a fork in the stream and we should find the house or what's left of the house at that point. But you know what? Maybe we ought to go back a minute and talk a little bit about how this particular location was identified in the first place, how I found out about it. And we can do that by taking a look at some old maps. And this might be very helpful to anyone who's interested in going out in the wilds and doing adventures and finding places that aren't on your typical modern maps. So we'll take a break here and back up and go over how to use some of these old maps first. On the right side of this image is the map from 1871 that I'm using. The source of the map is the General Land Office records from the Bureau of Land Management. This image on the left is from their webpage where you can search for maps and download them for free. Since the details of how to use this internet site are probably not interesting to everyone, I'm putting the full explanation for using this valuable site at the end of the story portion of this video. Now, let's get back to the story. Okay, we've come up the stream a little ways, and now we've got to a point where we have to cross over to the stream and get to the other side, and there's a little bit of a trail or an old road on the other side. We're going to follow that up and get to the main junction where Freeman's house should be, or what's left of it should be there. I think we're getting close to the location of Freeman's house, and this makes sense because you have a nice big open area like this, and it would be good for ranching or farming. The map doesn't indicate what kind of agricultural or ranching activity Freeman was in, but this certainly would provide some grazing opportunities. We're at the junction of the two creeks, and so Freeman's house should be very close to this spot right here. We're going to have to look around a little bit and see if we can find some evidence. Well, I'm real close to the junction of those two creeks, and I've come up the bank a little bit, and there's a nice big relatively flat area right here that's pretty clear of brush and trees. Certainly has the possibility of once being the site of the house. But so far I haven't found any evidence of a foundation or a building. I have to keep on looking. Well, we haven't found any evidence of the house yet, but we're going to continue to look, and maybe we need to go up this bank right here, see what's up there. It could be a flat area on top of that bank. After coming up the bank from the creek, we came upon this great big meadow. It's really nice here. There's hardly any brush at all, or trees. Nice big open area. This would have been great for grazing. And very interestingly, there's a really big wall, big rock wall, that encloses at least part of this meadow area. There off in the distance, you can see the beginning of the wall. Come in a little bit. Down at the far end, in the shadows there, you can see my wife. She's standing there waiting for me. And this is a pretty good sized wall. Covers quite a distance. The creek is down below it on both sides. But there's something peculiar about this wall. You'll notice that the wall comes to an end point right here. If I walk over to the end, you can see that there's nothing left over here. There's no other remnants of a wall, so there was never a continuation of the wall. It just ends right at this point. It seems like if you're going to have such a substantial wall like this, in this pasture type area where you'd want to corral some animals, the wall would extend all the way around this meadow. And where we came up from the creek over in the distance there where my wife is, it also ends at that point. And so it doesn't continue around. So what was the purpose of this wall? It doesn't seem to be a very effective corral. Seems like it was the start, perhaps, of a corral, but it was never finished for some reason. Unfortunately, we never found evidence of the exact location of Freeman's house. It probably looked something like this early California ranch house. But now, it's time to reveal the circumstances of the murder. Once I got home, I decided to do some additional research on Freeman. And one of the things I found was that Freeman's name was spelled several different ways in various historical records. However, because of other evidence, it was clear that all of the spellings referred to just one person, who was a sheep herder. In the fertile hills and valleys around Freeman's house, he raised sheep and claimed the grazing rights for the meadows we have just seen. A hot-headed and dangerous man named Smith also grazed sheep in this area, and a deadly disagreement over payment of grazing rights led to murder. So now you can see from this newspaper story, it was Mr. Freeman that was murdered. He was shot and killed by Smith in 1868. The mystery of the unfinished corral is now also solved. The logical explanation for why it wasn't finished was because Freeman had been murdered. What happened to Smith is unknown. However, given the administration of justice during this time period, it can be assumed that he was hung. The hanging depicted in this image occurred in the town of Jackson, which was only 12 miles away from where Freeman was murdered. The information in the following slides is relatively self-explanatory, so I'll let you review these pages at your own pace. The second internet site that's shown in these slides is from the General Land Office records, and it provides the oldest maps. Just pause the video when necessary.